never really been into money. If I had been into money, I would have become a lawyer. At least that's what people say. If you want money, you become a lawyer. But lawyers often make very little, actually. Ask lawyers. Unfortunately, in many countries, and certainly in the UK, the amount of money you have in your bank account has become the measure of your value. That is very sad and very unfortunate. I've also learned the hard way, because I wasn't familiar with this, that credit records, these credit score things, are a total scam. Because if you have a debt and pay it off, it makes absolutely no difference to your credit score. But you can pay to have your credit score improved. That makes it a scam, doesn't it? That makes it a scam. To come back to money, there's been plenty of research that shows that all you need is a certain amount to cover the basics and a little bit more. Say 20,000 a year here in the UK. Any amount over that doesn't make you happier, but you do need the basics covered. It's not true that money doesn't make you happy, but that's only up to this point of roughly £20,000. I used to make approximately that amount. £16,000 to £20,000 is enough for me to live on. But when I moved to Portsmouth, everything went pear-shaped. Here in Portsmouth, poverty is seen as a badge of honor. It is seen as something to be proud of. And I think that people do this because they're convinced that poverty is their lot, that there is absolutely no way to get out of poverty because of this class system. There's this system here in the UK that keeps the lower third of the population stuck. And it's not just the Tories who are doing this. The Lib Dems and Labour have this same train of thought, this same habit of considering poor people inferior. They're not aware of it, but if you're from a very egalitarian country, which has its inequality too, then you see this. You see that when people are poor, they're being treated like scum, like dance monkeys. Dance monkeys. Who need to dance when told to dance, and who need to be obedient, bow their head, know their place, and have no daft ideas, have no get up and go, because then they don't know their station. Then they're considered having ideas above their station. They're supposed to know their place in life, and their place in life is poverty. I have for a while wanted to be really rich, because I figured if I were rich, I could start funds that support poor women, let them go to university and so on. But a little bit later, when I had very little money, I realized that the 40p I can hand to someone on the streets, or the £1 I can hand to someone on the train, can also make a huge difference in that person's life. Because I know from my own experience with poverty that 40p can buy you what you need at that moment. It doesn't lift people out of poverty, however. It doesn't empower people. The idea of empowering people is totally reserved for the upper class here. 1.3 million children of 0 to 5, and that's only of 0 to 5 years old, 1.3 million children aged 0 to 5 in the UK live in poverty. Britain is supposed to be a rich nation. Britain is not a rich nation. It's an abusive nation with a heck of a lot of inequality, and with something that no other country in the world has, this crazy class system, these crazy class ideas, this crazy stuff about not having ideas above your station, about having to be obedient towards the people who are higher up in society, who have bigger bank accounts. That sucks. It's wrong. It keeps people under the thumb. It keeps people obedient and powerless. I too find myself sometimes distancing myself from all these poor people who have been taught to be dance monkeys. Because if they behave like obedient dance monkeys, that's when they get food parcels, that's when they get toilet paper. They don't get empowerment. They are supposed to be poor and stay poor the rest of their lives. The others blame the poor for being poor, blaming it on bad genes or whatever. It's been said by a few Tories that poor people should be sterilized so that their bad genes can't spread. That's of course nonsense. Poverty is a government decision. Ask Philip Alston in New York, who looked into poverty here in the UK. Poverty is imposed on the people by the government. I know it has nothing to do with the EU and it has nothing to do with immigration. It's purely a decision made by government politicians. It's a series of decisions made by government politicians. It's the habit, the deeply entrenched habit of seeing the poor as inferior. That goes for Labour, that goes for Lib Dem, that goes for the Conservatives. It is not exclusive to the Conservatives. I used to vote Lib Dem until I realized that the Lib Dems are just as bad. The Greens seem to show the most promise, but I'm worried that if they were to get into power, they might develop the same habits, because there is so much wrong in the UK that is so deeply entrenched that people don't even see it. And if you say something about it, you become demonized. You're too critical and you have ideas above your station. You're supposed to bow your head and be a dance monkey. Well, I'm not a dance monkey. I'm not rich, but I'm not a dance monkey.